The quantum computing sector has experienced notable fluctuations recently, influenced by various developments and statements from industry leaders. I mean, some of the recent stock performance we're going to jump into here with Rigetti stock, a huge increase from the past few months. You see 66 cents surging to $21. Recently sold off, it's at $10 right now. So quite the sell off. You can see that this is still trying to hold this basically left to right trend that we saw take place. It's starting to look more bearish as most of the market was looking the past few weeks. But what you can see here is this trend start to develop. Now, this is a little bit more of a bearish trend. And this is why most likely we'll see a bounce tomorrow, but a bounce that most likely won't continue unless we get some notable news or some technological advancements. Maybe some things that shot it up right here were that Microsoft Majorana 1 chip that they unveiled, and that introduced a new type of qubit known as a topological qubit. And that development basically aimed to enhance and stabilize the efficiency of quantum computers. Google Willow's chip also has driven a lot of this rally that we saw before. And then this was some of the sell-off of Jensen saying that quantum computers are much further away than people realize. And then a lot of companies in this recovery now have started to develop somewhat of a recovery that we'll see if it holds. This is a resistance right here that I do notice. Resistance, somewhat of a consolidation. There's a support, and it's at that support right now. You can also see this trend right here downwards that we just laid out, that if it's going to bounce up right now, it could bounce just because it's trending down, and that's part of the trend. But also, if we see it break above this 200-day moving average, that would be really good indication that we'd see a reversal and a continuation up. But as of right now, it's more of a hold. I wouldn't say that it's fully bearish because it's at this level that could potentially bounce. But again, the bounce could be similar to how this looks, where it bounces up about 5 to 10% and then continues down. That could happen as well. What I'm seeing with Rigetti stock, they have a lot of new things coming out. For example, the quantum initiative that is going to be a stimulus for about $2.7 billion going towards quantum. This is the Quantum Initiative Reauthorization Act. If this bill gets passed, which right now it's in the process of being passed, it'd be a $2.7 billion stimulus for most of quantum. This would fuel more of our developments in NASA, satellite communications. You can see some of the companies that stand to benefit are IONQ, would be Rigetti, and a lot of the big or smaller names, I should say, in the quantum space, like D-Wave, or some of the companies that are backed by NVIDIA as well. So what we can see on the technical side, that looks pretty prominent. If we take a look at Rigetti, and the other thing to note, if you guys aren't familiar, make sure to look. This is a company that you can tap in through the cloud in order to use these quantum computers. When the AI boom has started to take place the past year or two, you start to see more AI generated content, start to see more coding and more apps being developed that utilize AI tools and analysis. One of the things that's going to be a big key development in AI is that AI has the supercomputing power to solve extremely complex problems. Right now, if you wanted to solve a problem with an AI, most likely you would run that through, a computer, a classical computer, and then it could possibly look at some calculations, run some calculations, maybe down to a chemical level or possibly a molecular level. But when you run, for example, AI in tandem with a quantum computer, the types of computing power that is harnessed is enabling people and scientists and companies to run predictive analysis down to an ionic level or down to an electron level, where you're actually seeing the atoms move, the electrons, that frequency at which they move that changes. And not only that, in the chemical side of things, running computations down to the molecular level to determine vaccines, to determine which diseases can be how they come up with vaccines for diseases or to cure certain strains of diseases, and basically bind peptide proteins. There's millions of different types of binding agents that you could try in order to bind peptide proteins together in order to find a vaccine or something like that. But when you use quantum computers, they basically can run millions of different combinations and find them like that in order to determine a few options that seem probable, and then from there be able to come up with a solution by exploring those few options. So a good example is like taking the battery, lithium ion battery, from 30 million data points down to 8 options, exploring those, and then improving the battery's efficiency by about 70%. That's something that they did recently. IONQ, I believe that was. So as we see that you can use them through the internet, and the everyday person can go say, I have this really complicated problem. What if I give you all these millions of data points, all this Excel sheets basically of all of my research, and then I'm trying to come up with this type of answer, and it can actually do that for you? That's pretty powerful. In tandem with AI and the developments we're seeing there, this company has a lot of room to grow and be what could be the backbone of much of the AI boom as we know it. So if it makes its way back in this bounce that we are anticipating here, it'd be about an 18% swing up to that $11.50, $12 range. If we see it recover back to some of these highs that we saw back here early February, be looking about a 42%, 40 to 50% increase. And then of course, if we actually see a continuation of pattern, so that would look something like this. There's a lot of green lines there. Well, let's say we see a continuation. You can see from down here through this support to here. And let's say we see it. I almost need to change this color. It's something like blue. How's that look? Still looks a little funky, but as you can see, if it just bounces in its trend that's in now, it's about 15%. If we see it actually get up to previous highs, which could take a considerable amount of time, nevertheless, it's about 100% increase that we'd be looking at there for Rigetti. Now, a lot of the other quantum computing stocks are really similar to this, and that's why it's so important to watch them closely. We know that these moves can happen fast, and you want to make sure that you're monitoring them if this is a market that you see the same potential that some of the big investors are seeing. Some of the big investors that are investing in Rigetti and others, we could go into some of the institutional investments. According to NASDAQ, I don't know if you know, but the largest real estate owners in the world and own much of most of the stock market is BlackRock. And BlackRock is one of the investors in Rigetti that bought a fair amount of shares back in December 2024. Also, Vanguard, if you guys know, Vanguard Investment Group is a big holder in Rigetti. State Street is as well, JP Morgan Chase and Morgan Stanley there, as well as Goldman Sachs. We're talking about basically, Charles Schwab is there as well. We're talking about basically the most prominent investment institutions are invested in this small company. And when you look at some of the financials for Rigetti stock, it's actually surprising that they have that type of backing, and well, it's not that surprising because their revenue is still missing some earnings. They beat it back in 2023, but they're still missing red, and you're buying what could be. But when you look at the revenue, like for example, all those companies are invested and they're still only a $2.4 billion market cap, which is relatively small when you put it in comparison to even some of its other competitors in the quantum space. Like I think it's IONQ, it's about 6.7 billion. If you look at D-Wave, it's about 2 billion. And who are the main backers of NVIDIA? Well, one of the main backers is going to be, I said main backers of NVIDIA, gave you the answer. NVIDIA is one of the main backers of Rigetti as well. And if we just have a look, I would encourage you to simply take a look at some of the investors in this company. Of course, they got partners like NASA, and they're working with some of these distribution channels like Amazon's AWS, Microsoft, and they have their own Rigetti systems where you can tap in through the cloud. But when it comes down to how much of such a massive opportunity that we could see them capitalize on if AI continues to develop the way that it is, and they harness their software to be able to use AI, Rigetti could be one of the biggest players that a lot of investors, retail investors, haven't really discovered yet. So that's why we're covering it. I think this is a crucial point that it's at now. Could have even said right here when it bounced before. What we're looking for is a break above that 200-day moving average. That would really indicate a lot more bullish uptrend. RSI and the MACD looking more like a buy on the short term. Long term looks really good, but definitely expect some volatility in the markets in Rigetti over the next few days or weeks. We'll be watching it very closely at market open. I would expect this bounce to take place from $10 to $12 potentially. We'll see what happens. If you guys would like to see if that opportunity presents itself and join us in our live sessions that happen each day at market open, would encourage you to check out that second link down below. Just a friendly reminder, we have a sale there where you can get lifetime access, no subscription required. That will be going away soon. So if you'd like to get in, get access to surrounding yourself with other traders and investors, and watch me trade live, my entries and exits on a daily basis, that second link down below, that's StockMate. We'd love to see you there tomorrow morning. Thank you guys so much for watching. If I earned your thumbs up, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.